Hi, my name is Tim Bradrick, and this is my code discussion for my week 14 work on my capstone project, Scoundrel Scrolls. There were two major things that I wanted to work on, the tutorials and the animations. I'm going to talk a little bit about the tutorials. And then the major issues I had to deal with in the animations. The tutorials, what I had to do was to reformat them as pictures. And what I did is I created a section in each of my scenes to house the tutorial objects here. Let me see here. I got the wrong section open. There we go. In the neighborhood and the adventure section, they are under the camera so that they are always visible to the player. And then right here is the tutorial. And basically, I have a script attached to it, and that script has a few arrays in it, and that's what is showing up over here. And I'll discuss that in a moment. And then there are two major sections that I have. I have buttons. If I scroll in real close here, these white question mark buttons are the buttons that are discussed over here. And each of them has a script attached to it, which I'll talk about. And then the major section are the messages themselves. These messages are pictures. Each one of these is a separate little item, and inside there is the picture itself. And if we slide over here, we can see that this one is called Tutorial Adventure Intro 00, and that's something that I can just come down here to my pictures. I created a new folder for all the tutorials, so there's just pictures in there, and just went and created them all. I'll just show this one real quick here, Adventure Intro 00, and then over here you can see that this is just simply a picture. And then in the object as well, I have an exit, previous, and an X button. And then if I need to, I have an animated tapping hand that I can turn on or off depending on the needs of the individual message. Now, these game objects are loaded into the public array in the tutorial manager, and that's what I have over here in the inspector, Unity Inspector. I can also load in the non-tutorial buttons. In this example, it would be the exit button, and I just clicked off of it. Let's see if we can get it back real quick. There we go. There. In the neighborhood, it would be the houses and so forth, the tree stumps. The actual tutorial buttons are the question mark buttons, and then the objects for the messages are all here. Now, in the process of creating this, in the new way that I'm handling it is the next and previous buttons are holding some of the information. And if we look over here, we're looking at the previous button, and then I put in the code, the keyword of the next message. So obviously this is the first message. Let me go to the next, and there we're starting with 00, so the next one for 00 would be 01, Adventure Intro 01, and just continuing on in that process, just applying in the script for the next and the previous, and just looking at the different objects that are activated when the next or previous button are activated. Now, well, let me show real quick that I have many different scripts that I used for the tutorials. Um, many of them are pretty simple, and I will talk about the more major ones here. Let's take a look here. Auto show is attached to a collider and will automatically show. For example, you get close to the poison apple, it'll give you a little message about the poison apple and so forth. And then all of these are used in some way within, and I'm just going to show the more important ones here. Tutorial messages. This is a generic class that I set up. There is a keyword with each message, and then it's recording a Boolean variable as to whether that has been presented or not. And then this generic class is used in the tutorial manager, and down here at the bottom are all the sets of messages that I have. Some of these go up to 5 different screens. The welcome screen is right at the start, and so on. And then down here, the adventure intro, and then all of these here would be items inside of the adventure. These would all be in the neighborhood. That's the store. The info screen would go right there, and then the home would be right there, and all the create items right there. So it just creates this in a list, and which is used kind of like an array, and it just iterates over when it's starting. Make sure to see if that list has been created. If it's not, it goes and creates it. It goes and turns them all off, and then it sets the initial message based on the level that is loaded, the scene. And I had originally planned up to 12 different scenes, but culling away some of the different features and so forth, I got it down to these. So there's some gaps in the numbers, and that's why it's not continuous 0 through I guess 13 scenes, 12 down to 12. So that's why there's some gaps here. And then it picks the starting message right when you start up in the individual scene. All right, and then what happens here? Turns off the non-tutorial buttons. There's a set of colliders for the buttons themselves, and it sets that them as true. Loads the button, question mark button, so it can turn it on and off. And then it basically, if it's the settings screen, the player can decide whether to show the messages or not, and if they're not, they're just turned off. Okay, and then down here, it checks for what's going on the screen. So, for example, change message in series. This is used for the next and previous button. In the next and previous script, it just sets this Boolean variable, and then it comes back to the tutorial manager. It turns off all the messages. It checks to see if it's in the list, and then it turns it on if it is, and then it turns off the need to change the message, so it'll sit there on the screen for the player to read. And then there's 2 different ways that the player can change or get new messages here. They can tap a button, or they can run into a collider, and that's what this is here. And then the collider messages are only shown if they're brand new messages for that player. If they tap a button, it displays regardless, and that's what this does. Again, it turns them all off. turns on the colliders, looks for the keyword in the list, and then it marks it as being presented. It pauses the game. The time scale equals 0, pauses the game, and then if it did find the message, it turns off the world collider, so you're not accidentally entering in a different scene while you're tapping the next or previous buttons here. And then if you are running into a collider, for example, running into the collider for the Blackbird or something like that, that's what this section here does. It checks to see if it's in the list, marks it as active, and then marks it as being presented. Move over a little bit. So presented as true, pauses the game, and then turns off the non-tutorial buttons. And then the buttons themselves, the question mark buttons, show or hide depending on the settings that the player has chosen, or if it's already been visited and so forth. And that's the major items there. The tutorial button itself, it's just basically a sprite with a question mark button showing. That's what that is, with a collider on it. And then it checks to see if the input touch has been overlapping the collider itself, and if it does, it'll attempt to basically set the Boolean value in the tutorial manager script and sends it a new message, and that message is a public item, which I type in for each of the button game objects. Okay, and then I just added some keyboarding functionality as well. And that's basically how the tutorial works. All right, next thing, the animations. I got two different major issues that I dealt with the animations. Let me load my neighborhood up here. One of the major issues were the NPCs trying to find a way to change the clothing of the NPC. The research that I did is that basically you can't do it outside of the fixed update in the scripting section. Apparently there is a different update to the items based on the animator, and the old clothing is attached inside of the animator, and there's no way in script to go in and change it. So what I had to do was to create some new animations for each of the clothing options on the different squirrels. So let's see if we can get this to show. This is showing kind of, let's go to headgear. There we go, right there. So we have a blank headshot, and then in the script I just apply a what NPC is being shown, and then it decides what's going on here. So if the NPC equals 1, it comes over here, that's the barker. If the NPC is 2, that's the vendor, and if the NPC is 3, that's the child, and 4 is the wise one. The wise one is already wearing blank, so wasn't a need to create that one. And basically I had to go in and create a new animation for each of these different clothing options. So, and that's why we have all these additional clothing items here. Okay, and I'll pick it up on the next video.